complete lunatics like you who think it would be right to have a gender-neutral Olympics. A gender-neutral Olympics is the most insane thing I've ever heard from any trans activist.
I'm a black trans woman.
Blossom, stop talking for a moment.
And you have cut me off so many times since I've been here.
Okay,
but
Blossom,
Riley, you give
can we have a conversation, please?
You give the white girl all the time to talk.
Can we have a conversation?
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and back to a brand new video. I know it's been like over a month and a half since my last long form video, so I definitely apologize if you guys have been following me on my short journey. You definitely know that I took some time off for some personal reasons, but I am slowly by surely coming back with videos, and this video is the start of it. So let's get right into it, shall we? As you saw from the intro, I'm going to be reacting to a Piers Morgan interview that happened last month between a trans-identifying man and Blossom debating Riley Gaines, who I consider a hero for women's sports and for women's rights. And of course, Riley is going up against somebody who is a part of the LGBTQIA, every other alphabet craziness cult, who believes that men should be able to compete in women's sports because it's progression and it's fairness and it's the world that we're living in right now. Great. You guys already know, if you have been following me, my opinion and my thoughts about men and women's sports. Get out. However, Blossom feels differently, so I'm going to just react to some clips from this interview. Not everything, because it is a long interview and I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm going to just react to some of the highlights that I found from this particular interview on Blossom's perspective and on this whole topic, which is going to be a fun one. So sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, grab some Coca-Cola, and let's react.
Joining me to debate all this is Blossom C. Brown, a transgender activist who sparred with Michael Knowles on Jubilee this week.
Hi.
Hello.
Blossom. She, her, hers powerhouse.
Blossom Powerhouse, lovely to meet you.
And the great Riley Gaines, who has been a fantastic trailblazer for safeguarding women's rights in all this, is the host of Gaines for Girls on Outkick. Blossom, I can see you making faces there. I've got one question to start this debate with you. Why do we separate the sexes at the Olympics?
You know, first of all, let's be clear. Donald Trump is a complete moron. Donald Trump talks so much about waste and fraud, and you're signing a whole executive order banning trans women from playing sports. According to the NCAA, there are over 510,000 athletes. And within those athletes, there are only less than 10 trans athletes. So you mean to tell me Donald Trump signed an executive order for 0.002 of the population when trans people are only 1%? That's a waste. That is a waste. Trans people exist. There are more than two sexes. There are intersex people that exist. And I think that it's nothing more than conservative propaganda that because Donald Trump is in power, he is able to use. I think Donald Trump should stop booty clapping to Elon Musk and actually get something done in this country. And eradicating trans people is not going to be it. And I stand 10 toes down on that.
Booty clapping to Elon Musk. Now that's quite a sight. I did not want to see. So of course, Blossom goes to the normal talking points of the cult, which is, it's only a couple of men in women's sports. What's the big deal? It's just a small, tiny number. What's the big deal? Well, here's the big deal, sir. Just one man in a female sport is one too many, in my opinion. If we let one or two in the next competition, we're going to let 4 or 5 in. And it's going to continue to grow. The point is, there should not be any man, period, in women's sports. I don't care if it's 1, if it's 2, if it's 2,000. Again, women's sports needs to be protected for integrity. Okay, we need to make sure that women are competing against other women and not men posing as women with the bodies of men, like Aaliyah Thomas, for instance. Okay, who, by the way, one man was able to beat hundreds of women in the pool at the Nationals, taking away their chances. So it only takes one man to disrupt the entire cause of women's sports. And that's the point. And this idea that it's just 1 or 2, what's the big deal? You're missing the point. The point is, there should be no men, period, in women's sports. And then of course, Blossom goes to what they always run to, right? Which is intersex. So there's trans people, there's intersex people. Intersex people have nothing to do with this debate because intersex people did not choose to be intersexed. Trans people chose to medically transition to a different gender. An intersex person is somebody who was born with a chromosomal abnormality. Trans people, biologically speaking, are perfectly normal. They either have XX or XY. So it is not the same thing to equate intersex and trans as one because they're not one. But what you're going to see in this debate and what happens in most debates regarding trans issues when it comes to sports is the trans cult running to intersex people because that's their only argument that they can use. Intersex. The problem is that intersex people do not identify as trans people. But that's how they hijack the conversation and the debate because they don't really have a leg to stand on.
Okay, so
I'll say very briefly, it's this argument that it's a small percentage of the population. I hope you realize it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. It's not for every one male that's participating in a women's sport, it's one woman that's affected. In my sport, at our national championships, one male displaced 14,000 women. And I can speak for myself, I can speak for my teammates, I can speak for 99% of other female competitors on that pool deck. We all felt betrayed. We all felt violated in the locker room. We all felt it was unfair, but not enough people were courageous enough to say it because they were terrified. They were terrified of the name calling that you just pursued. Even, I mean, the first thing you say is Donald Trump is a moron. What 20-year-old girl wants to be called transphobic or any of the slurs that have been thrown my way? I can certainly attest to.
Riley, I think you're trying to, Riley, I think you're just trying to make it seem like that trans people are a threat to cis women in the restroom, and that's not the case. Trans women and cis women should be coming together. Trans women are not a threat to cis women.
Okay, but here's the look. Okay? But Blossom.
And I think that y'all have ran on that ideology.
Yeah, Blossom.
Y'all have ran on that ideology
Blossom,
for a very long time.
hang on.
And you're gonna have to specifically tell me cases. Can you specifically tell me cases of where trans women have hurt cis women in the restroom?
Blossom.
I'd like to know that, please.
Say no more, sir. Migrant transgender woman charged with 14-year-old in what? A New York City bathroom. Would you like more examples? Virginia family sues school system for $30 million over SA assault in what? A bathroom. And in case you were wondering, the attacker was wearing a skirt in a woman's bathroom, made it a flashpoint in the national debate over allowing transgender students to use bathrooms, play sports, and go by names and gender pronouns that reflect their gender identity. And lastly, transgender SA offender who attacked child in Morrison's toilet is locked up in a male prison.
We don't use words like cis on here because no one understands it. Let's just.
Well, I use cisgender, so that's where I
I'm sure
come
you
from,
do,
and
but
that's
nobody.
what I like to use. That's in my vocabulary.
Yeah, but nobody else understands it. Let's just stick to my question.
My experience as a black trans woman is completely different than yours.
Reality.
As a white cis man.
Well, let me ask you about reality then.
Speaking, do not interrupt a black trans woman when I'm speaking.
Oh, don't be so
do not
pathetic.
interrupt a black trans woman when I'm speaking. Okay, Riley sits with so much privilege as a
So you
white
can
woman
interrupt me for the last 10 minutes.
Like a halfback.
So just to be clear, hang on. Just to be clear, Blossom.
White tears about trans
All
women
right, just can you mute Blossom for a moment, please?
So Blossom, I just showed you a bunch of receipts that shows that yes, there have been instances where trans people have assaulted women in bathrooms and children in bathrooms. What say you?
Do not interrupt a black trans woman, all right? Don't do it. Don't do it.
And that, folks, is how the debate went. Can't make it up. Can't make it up.
Thank you.
You're making
hang on, Riley. Sort of make the point that Blossom has just literally interrupted me for 10 consecutive minutes without pausing breath. But the moment Riley has the audacity to interrupt Blossom, oh, guess what? That's the moment that the black transgender woman decides this is outrageous.
This feels like an SNL skit.
It does.
Okay.
Which brings me to my question, which you haven't answered, Blossom, which is why do we separate the sexes in the Olympics?
Here's the thing. I'm not an Olympian.
Oh.
I don't play sports.
You don't know why we separate the sexes?
I think what you're saying is conservative propaganda.
Blossom, why don't we allow men to beat the crap out of women in sports like boxing? Why not?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not a boxer, so I can't really answer that question. Black trans woman, don't question me.
I think what you're saying is conservative propaganda.
Conservative
It's propaganda. That you're able
I
to
asked you
play
why
off
we
of it,
separate.
Piers.
I asked you why we separate the sexes.
Platform off
like
of
this.
that.
Why do we separate the sexes?
Again,
Why do we have the
again, when we
Olympics
talk
versus
about trans people, when we talk about trans people, we're talking about gender identity. I need both of y'all mindset to become more expansive.
Right.
So in other words, gender identity trumps biology. As long as that 6'5" man who looks like the Incredible Hulk, as long as he identifies as a woman, he can go in the ring and beat the crap out of a woman in a woman's sport because he identifies as such. I mean, why can't you understand that that is a rationale? What's the big deal? Yes, he's a man, okay, biologically speaking, but he identifies as a woman.
I know that's a little hard for
Can you
both
answer
of
my
you.
question?
Because both of you have.
Can you
the brains
answer
of a
my
peanut.
question?
I understand that's hard for both of y'all.
Can you answer my
I should
question?
say a seed.
Can you answer my question?
Again, when we talk about trans people, we're talking about gender identity. We're not just
That's
focused
not my
on
question.
sex.
That's not my
think
question.
That what y'all like to do is reduce conversations down to sex.
What
and
you all
genitalia,
like to do.
and you try to apply it to what's happening in the Olympics. Okay.
And I'm asking you a very.
Play in sports.
And I'm asking
trans
you.
women should participate in
the Olympics. The next Olympics. The
what
next
you're
Olympics.
doing
Okay, Blossom.
is spreading misinformation.
Blossom, I don't want to have to mute you again.
Conservative propaganda that should not be.
Okay, Riley, why do we separate the sexes in the Olympics?
Because men and women are different. We have different physical ceilings. It's the same reason why you have any category. It's the same reason why we have the Paralympics versus the Olympics. It's the same reason why we have weight classes in boxing. We don't have weight classes in boxing because we are fat shaming people who weigh more. No, we have weight classes because it would be unfair. We know the outcome. Every single person, kindergartners, know the outcome of what would happen if we had a 220-pound man fight a 170-pound man. It's the same reason why we have age divisions. We don't have 12 and unders or
She
Pee
doesn't
Wee
know
leagues.
that. What if that 220-pound? Wait. What if that 170-pound man has the agility to beat that 220-pound man? That makes
So
no
you
sense.
want to base all of
I'm
the
so
Olympics off
sorry.
of exceptions?
Your answer makes
Off of
no
exceptions.
sense. That makes no sense.
Blossom,
Y'all don't know
bottom
anything
line, it
about
doesn't make
somebody's
sense to you.
biochemistry.
It makes
Somebody's
sense
biology
to
you do not
99%
know.
of common
You do
sense.
not
Actually,
know,
100%
Riley. I'm
of
sorry.
common
You
sense
absolutely do
individuals.
not know about somebody's biology.
You just admitted you're not an
Everybody's
athlete.
chemistry
You
is made
admitted that
differently.
you have never competed at the highest level.
And see, this is the thing. I don't have to be an athlete to talk about this because this affects
Well, you
my
just said you
community
couldn't answer
I am
because you're not an
trans.
Olympian.
All right, you know what we're gonna.
I love how the standard keeps changing, right? So now you can talk about sports in the Olympics because it affects your emotions, but you couldn't answer it prior when Pierce asked you the very simple question of why do we separate men and women at the Olympics? Funny how that works, right? And also this idea that, well, you don't know if that 170-pound man could beat that 200-plus man. Well, that's an exception. We're talking about the rule, not the exception. And the rule, according to biology, is that majority of the time, if a woman is competing against a man, the man is going to have an advantage because biologically speaking, he has a physical advantage over her body. It's not rocket science, Blossom. It's really not.
Okay, you know that Serena Williams admits that she would be beaten by the top 1,000 men in the world at tennis, right? You know that, do you?
No, I did not.
You did not know that. So,
The 200
Okay, where's the?
So you
can
don't
show me
know
the
that.
receipts? Can
You don't
y'all
know
show
why
me-
men and women
excuse
get
me, can y'all
separated
show me the
Olympics?
I have
receipts?
the
I would like to
receipts right
read
here.
those receipts.
I love receipts. Roll it.
Well, actually, it's funny because Andy Murray, he was been joking about myself and him playing a match, and I'm like, Andy, seriously, like, are you kidding me? Because for me, tennis and men's tennis and women's tennis are completely almost two separate sports. So I'm like, if I were to play Andy Murray, I would lose 6-0, 6-0 in 5 to 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, because no, it's true. It's true. It's a completely. It's a completely different sport. The men are a lot faster, and they serve harder, they hit harder. It's just a different game, and I love to play women's tennis, and I only want to play girls because I don't want to be embarrassed. I would not do the tour. I wouldn't do Billie Jean any justice. So Andy, stop it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you kill me.
Blossom, response?
Don't interrupt a black trans woman.
This country was built on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And
Exactly. This is why that's so nuts.
That does include cis women like.
And you know what you would do?
Hello?
You would exclude all women from winning medals. Well done.
Yes, thank you, Blossom. Thank you for another crazy ass interview for me to react to. I so appreciate you. Guys, if you want to watch the full interview, I'm going to have a link in my description where you can watch the entire interview. It was a circus, okay? A freaking circus. I just touched like the surface of that interview. So watch the full interview for full context because it is definitely entertaining to say the least. That is it for this video. I wanted to just show you guys a little bit of the craziness of the left and how far they go to try and justify what they know they can't justify. They'll use every excuse possible, intersex and exceptions versus the rule, receipts that they don't have. And then when you show them the receipts, crickets. Unfortunately for Blossom, I have time today. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this video. Where do you stand on this topic? What did you think of this interview? Is Blossom crazy or is Blossom making sense? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoy my content, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit my notification bell so you know when I post a brand new video. And I promise more videos are coming. Chucky is back. So stay tuned. Until next time, peace.